Hi everyone. Welcome back to another video on learn-automation.com. This is Mukesh. Today in this video I will show you how to create a base class in Selenium WebDriver for creating an automation framework. So this base class concept will help you to design your data-driven framework, and it will help you to create a hybrid framework as well. So let's talk about the high-level agenda for today. So today we'll talk about what is base class in Selenium WebDriver. Then we'll see how to create a base class. Then to work with base class, we need to understand some annotations of TestRigor. So we'll talk about some annotations of TestRigor as well. Finally, we'll see how to use this in our script. So let me start with Eclipse. So this is my project which is already created. So let me show you one standard definition of base class as well. And finally, we'll also add some more methods in base class. So we'll add some browser file, browser setup, configuration files, screenshots. Let's see one by one. So the base class is nothing but you can say a separate Java class, or you can say the main class of your automation framework, which will take care of the browser setup, loading configuration file, Excel file, and other reusable methods. So the main benefit of using base class in Selenium is you can avoid the code duplicacy. It means you don't have to write the same code again and again in every test cases. We can easily avoid this, and ultimately when you use this base class, you will reuse the code, and that is how your framework is supposed to do. So let me go back to our project. So let me create a fresh package. I will create a fresh package, and let me give this name as pages. You can give any name. So as of now I will give base class. And now don't get confused with this base class, because this name will change. Some people say it's base class, some people say it's a driver class or utility class, main page class. So naming convention will change based on the person to person, but the idea, or you can say the main intention, will remain same. We have to use some of these classes so that we can avoid the code duplicacy. So before jumping into base class, let me simply create one class as of now. We'll come to this. First, let's see what is the disadvantage if we will not use this base class. So I will start my script. So I will say this is my login script, and today I will be using TestRigor. So if you have not installed TestRigor in Eclipse, then I will share the link in the description where you can install the TestRigor. So let's say I have created my first test case, public void, and let's say login to application. This is my first method. Here I will be writing the code to log into the application. So I will start one Chrome window. So I will be using this demo application. So if you have any other application, or you can take your main application as well, the concept will remain same. So I will start with WebDriver part. WebDriver driver equal to new Chrome driver. I will start the application. So application URL I will pass. Let me maximize it, and if you want I can increase the font size, but it's fine. So we will start our script. We will maximize the browser as well. So driver.manage.windows.maximize. Then finally we have we need to perform some operation. So this is our web elements. I will right click on it and I will click on inspect. So you can see I have some properties, name, ID. So I will quickly take this name. You can take ID as well. You can write to XPath. I will use this name, and finally I will say send keys admin. Same thing I will do for password field as well. Here also this time I will take ID, and password I will use admin. So this is the username and password for this site. They already have given this. And finally, I will log in. Click on login. So for this also I have name, ID. So I will say driver dot find elements by find element by ID. I can give this ID here, and finally I can say dot click. Let's take the ID for password field as well. It's txt password. And finally I will say driver.quit. And we need to work with TestNG, see how. So I have to start with this @test. Okay, so don't take this test from JUnit, always use TestNG. Now you can see this is very general script where we are starting a browser. After login, we are simply closing the browser as well. So now if I will run this script, I will show you the importance. Some of the annotations. As of now, we have used only one annotation, which is nothing but your @test. So it will perform simple login and it will close the browser. After login, you can see the dashboard and find completed. Now, what if something went wrong? So right now you can see it has closed the browser, right? But let's say I change this ID and I did this purposefully, but in case if your locators are getting changed, then definitely your script will fail. So what happens when a script fails? At this particular point, when WebDriver is not able to find this element with this particular ID, it will stop the execution at this point of time. It will not execute the next command. So even though, let's say you're running 20 scripts one by one, and if your scripts are failing, you will see 20 instances will be opened, right? Because it will not execute the driver.quit, and every time it will start a fresh session. So it will overload your system, and just because of overloading, some scripts might behave unexpected, and you might fail some, you might get some any other additional problems as well, right? So let's follow a standard approach. Let me show you first this, then I will show you how we can use the testing annotations effectively, and this is how we have to use it in our framework. Okay, so now just check here. Our script failed, but driver is still open because it is not executing driver.quit command. And it is very meaningful exception. So if you see here, it says no such element exception. I am unable to locate one element where ID equal to this. And it will give you other details as well, that which Chrome version you are using, which platform and all. So now we need to make sure, even though our script is failing, we should quit the browser, right? As of now, I have to right click and I have to manually close the browser. So now TestNG gives so many annotations which will get executed automatically based on the conditions you specify. So let me create one method called public void, and I will say close application. And I will use this driver.quit command here. So you can see driver is not getting recognized because the driver scope is still here, right? Because the WebDriver instance which we created will remain till this particular block. So we need to create this as a global variable first of all. So I will say it's WebDriver driver, and make sure you remove from here, otherwise it will throw you null pointer exception. So the same driver I will be using in this @test, and I will be using here. Now I want to run this after my every test case. So now if you want to run this particular method after every test case, you have one annotation called after method. When you say after method, it will ask you to import. So after method will execute after every test case. So let's say if we have 20 test cases in one Java class, it will execute 20 times. I will show you in few minutes. So as of now, we have categorized our code, and once we are done, I will say reporter.log. See, you can use sysout as well, but I will be using this reporter.log of test-ng. What it does, it will generate report in your HTML report, plus it will give you all the logs on the console window as well. So here I will say application closed, or I will say browser session end. And this is one true and false. So if we say true, it will show you on the console window as well. But if you say false, it will only show in the report. So now we have an annotation after method which will take care of this particular method, and it will get executed automatically. Even though it pass or fail, it doesn't matter. This after method will always get executed. In a similar way, I want to keep this code in my actual setup code. I don't want to write everything in my test because this comes under setup category. So I will say setup application, and I will keep this code here because this code related to set up my application, and here I will be using before method, and before method also we need to import. So I will say import before method here, and now you can see a very structured code here. We have one setup method which will set up my application. I have one test case which simply performs some login operation. You can change it. And finally, I have one after a method which will take care of the closing the application and browser as well. So now just one small change. Just I will be using the same driver reporter.log here. Sometimes log will really help you to understand where exactly your script is. So here I will write browser session is started, and once we are done, we will say application started. So logs are very important for your framework so that you can identify where exactly you are. And I will add here, click on login button. Now let me run this test and let's see how it behaves. So we have not changed anything here, so it is still btn login. It will fail, but you can see it says browser session started, and once the application will load successfully, it will say application started, and as expected it failed because we have not changed anything. But you can see it says browser session end. It means it has executed our after method and it has closed the browser as well. You can see we do not have any active session. So now this is the importance of using these annotations. What exactly it does, they will do some precondition kind of stuff like setting up your application and closing the application and so on. So now let's change it because we got the actual point. Now if I give you one more task, can you create one more script? This is actually for valid login, right? What if I give you one more task, can you create one more script for invalid login? So what generally you will do, you will create a new script, right? And you will simply change the login ID password in the second script. I will say admin1 and admin2. Okay. But if you can see here, we are not utilizing the code. Here also I'm using the same thing. Here I'm using the same thing. It's code duplicacy. So we need to come up with a particular solution where we can avoid this piece of code. So what we will do, we will be creating one base class. This is what we created just now, and whatever we have done in previous login script, I will do, I will simply copy and I will say in the base class. You can see I still have WebDriver which will take care of the session. Same thing, I will go and I will keep this after method as well. You can see it's not throwing any error because we have already this import statement and it works. So let me show you. Now since we have a base class, now you don't have to write this lengthy stuff. Let me show you how you can do this. If I give you task that create one script for invalid login, and I will say this script name is invalid login. So first of all, you need to extend the base class. I will say extends and I need to write base class. When I say base class, whenever we will run this program, first of all base class will get executed and our annotations will get executed. So now if I want to create one invalid login, so I will say login to application, and you will see how easy it is to write the code now because we have the base class. I will directly say driver dot find element by, we don't have to write the code because we have already written. So I will go to previous script and I will only take these 3 lines of code. So you can see how beautifully we have designed our script, and we will see how it will execute our test as well. Now when you run this test, what will happen? Since our class is extending this base class, so before running this @test, control will go to this base class, it will start your browser and it will give you this application started. Once it is done, again it will go back to your invalid login test case, it will perform all the activity, and once it is done, again it will go back to this after class and it will execute this after method. So let me show you, just right click, run as and TestRigor test. And you can see it's working as expected, browser session started. And functionality wise nothing will change because we have not done any changes here. Okay, so we have not changed the invalid credentials, right? So now one more thing which is very important, like what if you have multiple tests, will it work? Definitely it will work. So I will give invalid credentials now, admin 2. So now I have 2 test cases. The question comes, will this work? Yes, definitely, because the thing is we have given base class, and as we discussed before, method will work before executing every test. So now when you run this test, before running this particular test case, it will go to the base class, it will call this before method. Once it is done, it will execute your test. Again it will go back to your base class, again it will execute this after method. Now control will again come to this second test case, and as we said, base class will again have before method. So it will go back again, create one session, and it will close the session once it is done. So let's run it, and let me give some description as well, because sometimes it happens when you don't provide the description, you will not be able to understand what exactly this test case does. So I will say this test case will perform valid login. See, this is the feature of TestRigor, that you can provide the description to individual test. And I will show you it comes in the report as well and looks beautiful. So let's run this test again. Browser session started. This is our session. And it clicked on login. Now you can see again the second test is started, and you can see the same log browser session started for the second test, and it's working as expected. Now you can understand the importance of this base class. You are utilizing so much line of code. Now again a new question comes, that why we need to take care of starting and closing browser every time. But generally, if you talk about manual testing, you open browser, you do some activity, you perform all your tests, then you close the browser, right? Then what is the purpose of creating and closing the browser again? It makes sense to create a browser session once, execute all your tests, then close the browser. So this is what we are going to do next. But before moving to the next part, you can see both the test case executed, and this is what the description I was talking about. When you say description, it will print what exactly this test case will do. This test case will perform valid and invalid login. And if you see here, these two test cases executed. Now we already discussed like it's starting browser 2 times, right? So in spite of writing before method, we have one more annotation called before class. As the name says, before, and just important point here, this before class is already available in TestNG JUnit. Sometime it happens you might click on JUnit, then again you will get null pointer exception. So always take from TestNG. Same thing I will do here, and I will say after class. So as the name says, before executing this invalid login class, so you can say this is one class. So before running this class, it will execute this test, and once this class is getting ended, then it will call this after class. Then you will notice it will not do this operation for separate browsers. It will start the session, do all the operations, and close the browsers. So now if you write 50 test cases in one Java class, it will not make any difference. Browser will start only once, and once all the test case complete, it will close the browser. This is the most important questions you might get in interviews, because they might be working with the real-time scenarios and they will expect the same answers from you. How to create a base class, how to use it. And I want to put some weight here, because when you click, it will take some time to load the page. So I will add thread.sleep here so that it should not disturb my execution. I will put thread.sleep of 3 seconds, and I will use add throws variable. So let's run this. So you will notice it will do only in the same browser. So it will log in. Okay, so the problem is why it will not execute the second test case. Okay, it executed both, but what happened here? It clicked on login, right? So it went to the dashboard, so it is not able to find this. So let me quickly change these credentials so that it will be on the same page. So it performed first. Okay, now we have to switch back to the previous because it came to a different site, and you can see it's entering again. But you can see browser started only once. This is some scripting that we need to plan accordingly. Like if I'm doing this, then it is going to the next page. So I came back to the previous window, and then it performed the second test case. But browser started only once. So if you want to check the log as well, this is how it worked. It is started, application started, and session ended. So this is how you can create a base class and you can reuse this code as much you can. So we already discussed how to just keep these two methods. In the part 2, I will show you how you can create a browser factory here, so that based on your parameter it will start the browser. So as of now we have hard coded the Chrome driver, right? But we need to make it generalized, so whatever parameter user is passing, based on the parameter it should start the respective session. We will also be adding some more libraries, like taking a screenshot and making a separate utility classes for handling the sync issues and so on. So that we will discuss in part 2. So in part 1 we have already discussed so much, so just try the same code from your side. I will be uploading the same code in my blog, so you will find the link in the description. So that's all I have for this video. So if you like this video, please share with your friends, and I got this very good quote from internet. So if you have any doubt, let me know, and thank you so much. Have a nice day.